Alright, we are going to be talking about Saturn's aspects today in Vedic astrology. Saturn aspects the 7th, the 3rd, and the 10th place from itself. But first, we'll start off by talking about what is Saturn. Saturn is a planet that rules two signs, Capricorn and Aquarius. Saturn originally rules the 10th house where Capricorn is, and it originally rules the 11th house of where Aquarius is. Saturn's Muchakona sign is Aquarius. This is the sign, this is the place where Saturn feels the most comfortable at. And then you have his exaltation, which is Libra. And Saturn gains directional strength within the 7th house of business and marriage and partnerships and all that good stuff. Saturn is also like a significator of servants, being of service to other people. It represents karma. Saturn represents karma, the actions and debts that we have to pay and fulfill in this lifetime. That's what Saturn is. Saturn is like, I'm putting these limitations and this burden upon you because I'm just a delivery guy. It's because you have to. It's because you're supposed to. This is why Saturn is like associated with servants. You are a slave to your sins. You are a slave to karmic debts that you have to pay. So, yeah. What else is Saturn? Saturn represents things that are underground, which is, minerals and rocks and oil and gold and whatnot. And you can't reach these things unless you go and dig underneath the surface, unless you go and do some back-breaking work. So Saturn essentially rewards you for the hard work and effort that you do. The hard work and effort that you put towards something, Saturn rewards you. You just don't walk around and run around and you find a bunch of gold or diamonds and gems just lying around. You gotta go and you gotta go work for it. You gotta go drill for it. Gas and stuff requires oil and stuff. You gotta go fight for the oil. You gotta go do all other type of things to get valuable oil and minerals. So yeah, Saturn also, in like Greek mythology, is like associated with like Kronos, this Titan who ate his own children, but then his own children freed themselves or whatever and ended up killing him and became gods like Zeus or whatever. So as I said in my Saturn through house videos, Saturn essentially chews you up and spits you out and molds you into a god in a metaphorical sense, into this valuable piece of mineral, this gem, this diamond, but only if you put the hard work in. It's almost like the saying that, some people like to say, man, I'm like, I'm going through hell right now. Well, some people might say, if you're going through hell, why would you stop? Keep going. Get your way out of hell. Travel through hell. Get to the other side. But we only mainly focus and associate Saturn with hell and with just the hardships and other stereotypical negative things that is associated with Saturn. What else do I have to tell you about Saturn? But that's essentially it. Saturn puts limits and boundaries on us, and it doesn't necessarily deny you of anything. Saturn doesn't deny you of anything. You gotta look at other planetary combinations in a person's chart to see if you're denied something. But Saturn most definitely does and can delay you of things. It says, hey, you're not ready yet. And it is believed that once someone experiences their Saturn return, once Saturn goes back into the sign that it was in when you was born, that is a time where you should have overcome the shackles or the restrictions that Saturn might have inflicted on you in regards to what house Saturn is in. Or maybe the shackles or restrictions or burden might have been released by the time Saturn comes back to the sign that it was in when you was born. But nothing gets changed or nothing happens unless you yourself puts the work in yourself. You gotta put the work in yourself. Nothing just is going to automatically change and happen unless you put the back-breaking work in. And with that being said, let's talk about the aspects that Saturn gives. Now, if you looked at my other previous aspect videos, you already know about the 7th aspect. I'm going to just run right through this. So, with the 7th aspect, basically with any planet with a 7th aspect, it is throwing the significations of the planet, the sign that is in, and the house that is in, and is throwing it at the other direction. So, if you got Saturn in the 10th house, and its 7th aspect is looking at the 4th house, what we could see is that naturally Saturn might bring his he might bring the work environment into the home life. He might bring his serious servitude nature and his desire to maybe work for other people or do whatever he might do in the work environment, and he might bring that into the home life. So it's almost like a couple, you know, some people who are married or whatever, and either the wife or the husband, they're never off from work. Even when they're not in the office, even when it's supposed to be their vacation, they're bringing the office, they bringing the computer work home. They're bringing it while you're supposed to be on vacation. Like if you've seen that Tyler Perry movie, Why Did I Get Married? And Tyler Perry's his wife, who was acting as his wife, she was a woman who they supposed to be on this cabin retreat, but she still was having the computer work and taking these business calls, and it was interrupting the intimacy and all that stuff. So the home life, happiness of the home life, could be interfered because of 10th house things. You know, you could be bringing in this corporate business like authoritative, serious nature into the household, or you could have grown up in a household where the relationship with the mother could have been very maybe serious and business like nature. Maybe you could have grown up in a household where the mother or mother-like figure brought her work from home and seemed to give more of a damn about the work than maybe the household or you. And this is just me being real generalized, because I didn't give no sign. I'm just saying Saturn is in the 10th house in general. But these type of themes could play out within the 4th house. These type of themes could play within the 4th house when Saturn is in the 10th, given its 7th aspect onto the 4th house. Yes, because like I said, the 7th aspect is bringing the house and the planet to the next house directly across from it. Just like if Saturn was in the 7th house and the 7th aspect goes into the 1st house, what you would see is that you would indefinitely be like, you would be in service to your partner, to the people you date or you marry or whatever. You would be like a servant to them in a sense, or you would be submissive to the partner, or you would work hard through dating, through marriages. You could probably work routinely, consistently, and hard in order to keep that relationship working. Because for one, Saturn in the 7th house could show a delay of marriage and relationships and show that you will date and attract older people. But Saturn is given its 7th aspect upon you, so it bringing the significations of that planet in that house, and it's affecting your physical body and your mind. Because the 1st house is the physical body, and it's like from the forehead, from the eyebrows on up. So basically the forehead, this area where your brain is. It shows us that partnerships whether it's they romantic or business, could end up making you maybe you would take relationships and business partnerships seriously. You could work selflessly in order to make that business partnership and or that relationship work. And therefore, we see that potentially, depending on what sign Saturn is in and what houses it rules, it could have a negative effect on your health. Because you could just begin to tirelessly begin to work and serve other people, your spouse or whatever. That's what you can see with the 7th aspect when Saturn is in the 7th house. If what else? What's another 7th aspect? And then I'll move on to the other houses. The other aspects that Saturn gives. If Saturn is in the 6th house, Saturn feels comfortable in the 6th house. The malefic planets do well in like 6th, 8th, and 12th, because you're like fighting fire with fire. You're fighting negativity with negativity. You're putting a rat in a sewer. They thrive in these environments. They're used to this rough environment. So if you have Saturn in the 6th house, it shows that there could be a delay or a long prolonged. There could be a delay in you maybe getting sick, or you could have long drawn out illnesses, chronic illnesses, or you could have debt, but you could be paying debt off over a long course and period of time. You might not have to immediately pay something off or deal with a collection. That you might not have to immediately deal with a bill, a debt, or a collection. Instead, it'll just be something like a chronic illness that you'll be dealing with when it comes to your bills and debts. It'd be something that you might have to consistently pay all the time, or through dealing with an illness for so long, or dealing with a bill or whatever, so it might just vanish. It might just disappear. You might just automatically overcome it some way, somehow. And Saturn shows that you could be very serious and have a routine regimen when it comes to dealing with your health, because the 6th house is diseases and stuff. So you might have a routine. You might have a routine when it comes to dealing with the 6th house things, dealing with your everyday problems like bills and all that stuff. And when it comes to dealing with your health and your body, you might have a regimen to deal with that stuff. But with the 7th aspect, it shows that you could be someone who want to take that servitudeness, that selflessness, that workaholicness into helping people in foreign distant lands. You see, Saturn is associated with bones. Saturn represents like structure, the framework of something, the structure of a car, the frame of a car. It can represent the stability of a house, the structure, the bricks that things are built upon on. That's what Saturn can represent, the bones in your body. So Saturn, looking at the 12th house being in the 6th, could show that you could potentially want to build something in a foreign land, somewhere far away, and help people there. You might, with Saturn in the 6th house giving off a 7th aspect to the 12th, you might want to build a hospital. You might want to build a jail, a rehabilitation center, a recreational center, some pet hospital, some retreat. You could just want to build something or be of assistance to something in a isolated place, far away place, or whatever, and just be a service there. You might want to do like volunteer type of work, community service type of work. You could want to do work that doesn't pay, but you're just doing it to help the less fortunate, like a food drive, just donating stuff for charity or being of service to the homeless people. That's what you can see when you have Saturn in the 6th house giving its 7th aspect to the 12th house. So let's talk about the other two aspects that Saturn gives off. The third aspect and the 10th aspect. The third aspect is going to have some of the energy and significations of the third house in a person's birth chart, which is communication, skills with hands, but mainly what I'm getting at is the lesser known significations of the third house, especially if you're someone coming from tropical astrology to Vedic astrology. The third aspect can show where you have to put your efforts towards, where you have to put your energy and your courageousness and your bravery and your efforts, because the third house and third lord and Mars in general, because Mars is a significator of the third house. It can represent how brave you are, how courageous you are, how much energy and drive you might put towards a certain area and direction of your life. So with Mars, with Saturn's third aspect, it can show where you will put a lot of energy and effort towards. It'll show an area that you'll work hard towards. Or it might show an area that you feel real confident and cocky and courageous about, because the third house and third lord naturally can represent and show where you feel very valiant and brave and confident at. But one of those two things will happen. Saturn's third aspect could be an area of your life where you feel real confident and sure and strong about yourself, or it'll be an area where you have to work real hard and be real diligent towards those things. You have to exert a lot of your Saturnian effort and energy towards that area of your life. So if you had Saturn in the 7th house, where Saturn gains directional strength, Saturn's third aspect goes into the 9th house. It would show that with Saturn's third aspect, that you would be someone that would have to work hard to understand political stuff, spiritual, religious stuff. You would have a hard time maybe connecting with teachers and gurus and maybe understanding them or getting along with them. You will work hard to understanding those 9th house things. You might not get along initially with your father, because some people view the 9th house as the relationship with the father. But in a more general, universal sense, you could just say that the 9th house can also represent the teachings of your father. So you could be someone that might not understand your father or father-like figure's point of view and perspective, and you have to work to maybe understand his logic and his teachings. You have to work hard to understand the logics and the teachings of your gurus or professors. You have to work hard and diligent to understand religious, spiritual, philosophical, political type of things. And that's essentially what the third aspect would show. What's another house that I could do? So let's say you have Saturn in the 6th house. Third aspect goes to the 8th house. With Saturn's third aspect going into the 8th house, it shows that you have to work hard towards maybe building a great relationship with your in-laws. You'll have to work hard to managing the wealth of your spouse or of the people that you date. You'll have to work hard maybe to overcome 8th house things like surgeries and accidents and car accidents and stuff. You'll have to work hard to understand and grasp astrology or the occult and all that good stuff. You'll work hard towards those things. Or if you do go towards those things, you'll have to work hard on them. Saturn will make you diligent and work towards those things. He'll give you, depending on the condition of your Saturn, make you disciplined and work hard towards doing those things. But the thing is, if you work towards that aspect, if you work towards that area, then over time Saturn's going to reward you for working hard in that area. Like, hey, you might have struggled initially, but now you're the best at that shit. Or now you're real good in that area of your life. And because you're real good in that area of your life, you know, I'll sort of release these psychological shackles that you might feel has been placed on you in your life and reward you. That's essentially what Saturn is doing. Saturn is making you pay for, you know, it's putting obstacles and restrictions on you because you have to overcome these things in this life. But once you overcome them, you'll be rewarded for them. You'll sort of be given another obstacle and another obstacle, but you'll be rewarded for facing those fears and obstacles and tribulations. Now we'll talk about Saturn's 10th aspect. Essentially, with Saturn's 10th aspect, it's going to have the significations. This going to have the significations and the influence of the 10th house. So, what is the 10th house? The 10th house is associated with, your impact on the world, your obligations to society, your reputation, how people views you. Saturn and the 10th house, they both represent karma. Karma means action. What action must you fulfill? What action and duty must you fulfill in this lifetime? Because when you work a 9-to-5 job, you're fulfilling a karma. You're fulfilling a duty. You're like a servant. You're fulfilling an obligation to someone or to a company or to society. No matter how big or small your job and role and position is, it is needed to help other people and make the world go around. That's what Saturn is. And, but anyway, with Saturn and the 10th house is associated with authoritative figures. It's a house that's supposed to represent the father. Just like the 4th house represents the mother and relationship with the mother, 10th house can represent the relationship with the father. And the 9th house represents the teachings of father. But 10th house can represent that authoritativeness. So with Saturn's 10th aspect, wherever it goes, that is an area where you'll feel obligated to work towards those things. That is something that you will work towards. That's something or area of your life that you will go towards. That will be your karma. That will be your karma to pay. That'll be an area of life where you'll treat seriously, where you'll be real serious in that area of your life. You might treat that area of your life with Saturn's 10th aspect as if it is a job, or that area of your life will feel like a huge burden. It will feel like it's a job. So Saturn will make you committed eventually and have to deal with and face and do those things in regards to the 10th aspect. And if you have, I already say if you have Saturn, everyone has a Saturn in their chart. You would mainly feel the influences of planetary aspects when you run the Mahadasha or Antardasha of that planet, just in case if the things that I'm saying do not make sense to you, or you feel so this doesn't relate to me. So if you got Saturn in the 10th house, 10 places from the 10th house is the 7th house. As I was saying, if you have Saturn in the 10th house, then 10 places from the 10th house will be the 7th house. And it shows that with Saturn being in the 10th house, your duty and responsibility, your commitment, your authoritativeness, all that stuff will go towards the marriage, will go towards your partnerships and your relationships. You'll treat it like a job. Just like you'll try to show up to work on time and do your job so you don't get fired because you don't want to lose your benefits. You're not going to want to lose the benefits of having a spouse. You don't want to lose that. So you're going to be on time and dutiful and committed to the spouse, and you're going to treat it like a job, like you need this in order to feed yourself and provide for yourself. That's where your karma, that's where your actions, that's where your commitment and dutifulness and authoritativeness will be exerted towards the spouse, towards a relationship. But you got to remember now, and I'm getting a little bit off topic, but Saturn's going to give his 7th aspect onto the 4th house, which means that, yes, he's going to be dutiful and committed to the spouse in a marriage, but with his 7th aspect, he could bring the work life and the home life. I mean, he could bring the work life into the home life, and, it's like you're saying, a happy wife is a happy life. But if the home life isn't happy, if the home life isn't great, if the home life is stressful, then, things can just get, tense and disruptive within the marriage, within a relationship. It's like you might think that, okay, I am being committed to my spouse because I'm providing her with money and food, but sometimes she might need you. Yes, you're working all the time, but she might need you to stop working and spend some time with her. So you being within the 10th house and bringing the work life into the home life could damage the relationship with the Saturn's 10th aspect potentially. Yeah, you there for her, but how are you showing up for your spouse? Yeah, showing up for the spouse by making sure that she's taken care of materialistically is nice, but you gotta be there for her emotionally and stuff. And then with Saturn's 3rd aspect, it looks at the 12th house of isolation, foreign lands, faraway travel, hospitals, imprisonment. Saturn in the 10th house might want to do work in faraway places that can take him away from the marriage or from the home life. Or Saturn might want to practice some escapism. So yes, Saturn might show up for the spouse, but we don't know how Saturn's going to show up for the spouse. Saturn is the most romantic planet. It's a materialistic planet. It's a practical planet. It's a planet that, it can represent the structure and foundation of things. Saturn might just do the bare minimum or the bare things necessary to keep the relationship afloat, but it might not be so charismatic and romantic and charming. So those are other things you have to look at for someone's chart. But regardless, you'll see that this person will be real committed and dedicated to the spouse and relationship in some way, shape, or form or fashion. With the 10th aspect, if Saturn falls into the 10th house. And if Saturn is in the 7th house, his 10th aspect goes into the 4th house, it shows that you will be devoted and committed to the 4th house things, which would be maybe making sure that your 4th house stuff, such as an indoor dwelling, like you'll be dedicated to making sure that the home life is okay. You'll be dedicated to making sure that maybe your personal possessions and items are secured and okay. You'll be dedicated to maybe making sure that the relationship with the mother or mother-like figure in your life is okay. Or, depending on what houses that Saturn rules, maybe it shows that you are meant in this lifetime to face and deal with obstacles and problems when it comes to your mother or mother-like figure. You're meant and born to deal with and face obstacles in regards to having a steady home in your life. You will be faced to deal with the obstacles of just maintaining the home life, making sure that the mother is good, or maybe you have to be like the mother or mother-like figure in your life. But all the nitty-gritty details depend on the signs of Saturn, where it's placed and what it's aspected and all that good stuff. I'm giving real general analyses. So what is another position of Saturn that I could say? So if you got Saturn in the 9th house, its 10th aspect should be the 6th house of bills, debts, small pets, animals, diseases. It shows us that you will be dedicated and devoted to maybe dealing with small pets and animals in some way, shape, or form. Dealing with the bills and the debts, that would be like your first top priority, dealing with those things probably. And making sure that you are not getting sick. But you probably will get sick. But I'm just being real general. Because Saturn can become a workaholic. Depending on where Saturn is placed in your chart, Saturn can make someone a workaholic, where you're just doing something routinely over a course of time. Eventually doing something repetitively, consistently, can wear down your body to the bones. So this is why Saturn is like a natural karaka and significant of like illnesses and diseases. Because everything has a limit. You got to stop and do something. You got to stop and rest eventually, or you'll just wear yourself out. There's no other better way for me to explain Saturn's aspects. I think they're pretty much simple and clear-cut and dry. The 3rd aspect is an area that you will have to put a lot of effort to. It's an area that you have to put a lot of effort and get your hands dirty. But the 10th house, the 10th aspect would be an area that you're like devoted to, dedicated to. You'll put everything into making sure that it works. The 3rd aspect is just an area that you'll have to work hard on. It's just an area that you have to work hard on. But the 10th aspect is something that you will do, that you will give everything that you have on. So like I said, if you got Saturn in the 7th house and it's looking at the 9th house of teachers and all that stuff, you might not want to go to school. You might not want to go to college. You might not ever pursue anything in life that regards you to require some type of higher education. But you do know that if you do go towards those things, that you'll have to work hard towards them. That they'll probably feel like a bit of a struggle. And we'll know that with your 10th aspect, that depending on how your life is, with your 10th aspect, that'll be an area of your life, depending on where your Saturn is at, and wherever this 10th aspect is falling, that you probably always feel as though it has been a burden. Like you can't escape having to deal with these things. You just feel that this area of your life might be a burden. Or depending on your psyche and wherever Saturn is at, and however you are as a person, you'll just naturally just probably take that area of your life very seriously, and you'll be very devoted to it. You'll be very committed to it, and you'll just give your all to it. But yeah, that's essentially what Saturn does with its aspects. It puts obstacles and delays with its aspects and with the house that it sits in. But it doesn't deny you of those things. It just delays the fruit, the benefits of that house and area. And I'm speaking in a general sense. And once you face those obstacles, you face those fears, Saturn then rewards you. But you got to be willing to do the hard work. Whatever obstacles Saturn could be placing within you in your life, you got to be willing to deal with the hard work. Saturn is just a messenger. He's making you pay for things that you have to do. And then after you get through one obstacle, Saturn will give you another one and another one and another one. But he'll keep blessing you, essentially. You'll keep being rewarded if you keep paying off these karmas. You keep paying off these sins. You keep paying off these debts. What do you get rewarded for if you pay your bill? You keep your service. And I know that might seem like that ain't no damn reward, but hey, some people don't have a house with electricity and running water and gas. If you don't pay your bills, well, then you get backed up on your karma. You get backed up on your debts. And now you gotta work hard to take care of something that you should have done. That's how a Saturn return is. If a Saturn return comes and you in your life didn't deal with those obstacles that Saturn had placed for you, well, then you're going to feel as though someone who is facing an eviction notice. You're going to feel like someone who is desperate and they're going to face foreclosure and they're going to lose everything. It's because they didn't handle their business. They didn't pay their bills. They didn't pay their debts. So now when the Saturn return comes, they feel the weight of all this shit coming down on them all of a sudden. It's like, oh shit, oh my gosh, I'm 28 years old, I'm 30 years old, and I haven't done this in my life. Or I've lied to myself and told myself that I couldn't do this because of this in my life. And you feel all the weight of that stuff. And it's either you'll stay there frozen and just lose everything, or you'll get to working extra hard to make up for what you lost, for what you haven't taken action on. That's how Saturn sort of operates and works. I hope this gave you great quality and understanding and just insight on Saturn's aspects, and I'll see you when I make my next video.